Hello wonderful coding enthusiasts, and welcome back to TechTalks Today. I'm thrilled to see you all here, ready to dive deeper into the exciting world of C++ programming. In our last session, we took our initial step by setting up VS Code, an IDE, and writing our first program together, which was a simple Hello World application. Today, we are going to dissect that code, understanding each line and what it does in a super friendly and easy way. Here is the code we wrote together last time. At the first glance, it might look a bit puzzling, with all these words and symbols, but no worries, we're going to understand each part of it today. But perhaps you're wondering, what are these? And what is that? So all of that is comments. But everything written inside the comments will be ignored by the computer. So the computer will basically read like that. He will read that part. He will skip that part. He will read that part. He will skip that part. He will read that part. And he will skip that part. And it will go so on. So for example, everything that is written inside the comments are skipped by the computer, because the computer will not see anything that is written inside the comments. That's why we use the comments. So the computer won't see anything that is inside of them. Okay, so let's start with the first line. Hashtag include iostream. This line tells our program to include a library named iostream. Think of a library as a bookshelf where code for doing common tasks is stored. iostream, in particular, helps us to perform input and output operations, like printing Hello World to the screen. So basically we can see over here, stream. So this basically means input-output stream. And basically we use that line to output the Hello World statement. But of course, if we will not output anything, we can just delete that part, and we will be able to delete that part. And we will not receive any errors when compiling, just a warning. And now let's move on to line number 6 for a second. Over here we can see cout, which means character output. And basically we can see those arrows pointing to the cout. So this basically will mean that that string will point to the cout, which is character output, and we can understand that that part will be output to the terminal. Of course, there is a cin, which is character input, as well as character output, but there will be a little bit different arrows, and cin basically will take an input from your keyboard, but we will talk about that in some other video later. Okay, let's now move on to line number 3, using namespace std. So this line is like telling the program to use words or tools like cout that we use later from a specific toolkit named std. So instead of always saying which toolkit the tool comes from, we say it once at the start and don't worry about it again. Of course, we could delete the using namespace std part, and instead we could just write std over here and std over here. And we will be able to compile the code and we would see the same output, but we would write the std manually in every single line, well, almost every single line. So for the beginners, I do advise to write using namespace std only once, instead of writing it in almost every single line. Moving to line number 5, int main. This tells our program where to start running our code. Think of int main as the starting point of our journey in each C++ program. Everything inside the curly braces. These are the curly braces. And everything inside the curly braces is the path our journey will take. Okay, now let's move on to line number 6. So cout is our way of getting the program to talk or output something, in this case saying hello world. And endl moves our cursor to the next line, like hitting enter when typing, keeping things neat. So basically, endl means end of the line. And we could just basically delete that part, save it, and compile it. And we would see that the output is the same, but actually it is not the same. But now just look what will happen if I will copy that part and write it again and run it. We would see that these are connected. But now let's try to write two hello worlds with endl. And now we can see that these two are not connected because we write end of the line, or like pressed enter. But we can also write, instead of endl, we can write like that. And it will do the same thing. That /n will mean new line. Finally, return 0. In line 8, signifies the end of our program. By writing this, we tell the computer that our program has ended successfully, kind of like saying, we are done, no errors here. And now let's move over here. So these are the 4 main tips for the C++. Number 1, end with a semicolon. Always end your statement with a semicolon. It's like putting a period at the end of a sentence in English or any other language. It tells the computer that you have finished giving a particular instruction. So basically, you can just delete that semicolon, for example, and try to compile it. See, we received an error because we deleted the semicolon. Tip number 2, be mindful of syntax. C++ is case sensitive, meaning cout and cout with a uppercase are treated as different. Always double check your syntax to avoid unexpected errors. So we can see that everything works right now. But if we, for example, would write cout with an uppercase C and try to compile it, we would receive an error. Tip number 3, understand error messages. So basically, we should always read everything that we see in a terminal when we see an error. For example, the previous error. We can see that 6th line over here, there is an error. Use of uncleared identifier, cout. Did you mean cout? So basically a terminal says that you made a mistake. So basically you should always read an errors. Tip number 4, use comments wisely. Imagine you have written 10,000 lines of code and you went for a vacation. And after you came from the vacation, you opened the file and you wouldn't understand most of the project you have written. But if you would use the comments, you would simply read those comments and just remember everything that you have written before much faster. So there you have it, folks. We have just cracked the code on our first C++ program together. I hope that this explanation helps make each line a bit clearer. Always remember, programming is a journey and each line of code is a step forward. If you have any questions or if something is unclear, feel free to drop a comment below which part of the code you didn't understand, and I will try to answer that in the comment section. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell icon so you won't miss our next step in this wonderful journey into C++. And don't forget to like if you found this helpful. Until next time, keep curious, keep coding, and see you soon on TechTalks Today.